Training appointment. No one knows.
It's like the first appointments that you do in your like 10 days fast start, right? Like your training. I
Okay.
don't
Okay. Yes, but a training appointment is someone who knows you, knows of you, or kind of sort of knows of you. So that's what we call a training appointment, right? Is an appointment where they kind of have a connection to you. Now, how long would you want to do training appointments for if you could?
Forever.
Literally forever. Right? And the reason why is because they'll give you easier time, they give you more referrals, might be more open to buying. They're going to get, all the stuff that builds your confidence. So, how many people, truthfully, do you like raise your hand if you feel like you've shown Cutco to everyone you've ever met on the face of the planet or that knows of you? Well, I've been here 8 years and I still haven't. So if you think that you have, then you probably are missing a few things. And the goal of today is to help you figure out more ways, right, that you can get training appointments. Because the reality is that you can always there's always more out there. I make the joke that my mom is still holding back from me, and it's been 8 years with Cutco. She laughs about it, right? So I promise you that there's more. But you have that the first thing that you have to be willing to understand is like, okay, well, number one, we want to. I tell all new reps that the goal is to show Cutco to literally everybody and anybody that fits the target market, that knows us or our family combined, right? Because obviously we're not trying to, hide Cutco as it's the forever kitchen solution, right? Like we would want to share that with people, whether they buy or not. It gives us a referral opportunity, right? Would everyone agree with that? So now we all know that they probably will buy, but even if they didn't, right, it still gives you a great opportunity to, get your skills in, but also get referrals. So what I want to challenge each person on is that you have to have the desire to want to, and that's the first thing is you have to want to look up all these numbers. Now, the benefit is that when you do these appointments, how many phone calls? Anyone know if someone like what's the conversion if you get someone on the phone that knows your mom or knows your family or knows you? What's the conversion like? How many people say yes if they get on the phone and they're not out of town to the demo?
Like almost 100%.
Right? I mean, no one here has been like, I mean, very few people have been rejected, like in your first, think back to your first 2 or 3 days on the job. You called and you got booked up in like an hour. Does everyone remember that? Right? So listen, these training appointment numbers, right? By the way, I could go do training appointments, right? And I'm 8 years in so think about it as doing appointments with people, right, who know you, or who kind of sort of know you. So you get booked up faster, right? Number two is they usually give more referrals. Number three, they usually buy a little bit more. And it's going to jolt up your business a little bit. And also, why not? So we're gonna talk about a few tips. First thing here is you have to want to. I see a lot of representatives. So my original manager was Ashley Rodriguez. Okay. And every year she would find, as a 25, 28-year-old, she would, for pushes, for like SC1 push and SC2 push, she'd go back and she would look up 30 to 50 new numbers every year for like 5 years. And this is someone who was like totally disconnected from high school and college. It's not can you, it's do you have the motivation to? So think about it in the terms, have y'all ever heard that phrase where it's like, hey, if we were going to pay you $2,000 tomorrow to bring in 100 numbers, would you do it? Have y'all ever heard that before? Like in training or whatever? Um, if you think about thousands of dollars stacked up in cash, and I said, anyone on this Zoom call can, as long as you come into the team meeting tonight with 50 brand new HM3 phone numbers that kind of sort of know of you, and that you could get $2,000 in hard cash, how many of you would find a way to make it happen? I mean, I would hope so. I like free money too. So you know that it's possible. The question is what are you, how hard are you willing to work for it? So I'm going to give you a couple thoughts on that. The first thing is, what's the easiest way to get tons of new names and numbers? Easiest way.
Mom's
Take-
contacts.
Yes. Now, my mom told me to piss off when I asked her, right? And she told me no, right? Now, how many people have experienced that? Where you ask someone to go through the phone and they were like, "No, I'm good." It is how you're asking. I had talked to my mom, a couple weeks back, and I'd asked her like why, and she's like, well, Taylor, you basically asked me like to give me all my friends so you could sell them knives. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Right? You have to ask the right way, and you have to be willing to kind of give and take. So you have to ask the right way, and I'm gonna go ahead and post in the chat bar here. The right way to ask is something like this. Well, let me post that. Okay. So when you're asking a loved one, right, for their family and friends and whatever, you have to ask the right way. And the right way is, hey mom, I need to brainstorm for married homeowners I can do like my practice appointments for with my job. And I get $22, right, for doing the appointment. Nobody has to get anything. No one has to be interested. They just have to be over 30. And the more that I get, it helps even more. I need as many as possible. The numbers stay with me, and as long as they don't hate hardworking college kids, I can get paid to practice. I was hoping you could put me on speaker and we could go through and you could read off everyone over the age of 30 so I could get a ton of practice appointments and I could get better at my job. See, if I would have phrased it like that to my mom instead of give me all your friends, right? And then probably it would have worked out. But you also have to be willing to kind of give something. So you got to ask yourself, how many of you feel like you know your mom or your dad or your aunt or your grandma pretty well? Then you know the key to their heart, right? Go offer some chores, go offer some dishes, right? Go offer to mow the lawn, go take her to lunch, right? You have to be willing to give. You can't just take, you got to be able to give too. So you have to ask yourself like what's holding them back from wanting to support you. It's probably not that they don't want to support you. It's probably that they're confused about something. They feel uncomfortable about something. Maybe they're not sure where their numbers go. Maybe they're not sure like maybe they're only thinking people who would buy, but you got to figure out what is that block because it has to be one of those things. Now, if you can get around those things and you can go A through Z, and I mean, I'm sure that y'all have convinced, right, family of a lot more than, hey, give me some of your friends so I can do practice appointments with. I mean, some of the stuff y'all have convinced your families of, I don't even want to know, right? But you gotta keep that in mind is that you have to be wanting to do it. Again, if there was $2,000 in hard cold cash, right? You would figure out a way. You'd be like, "Mom, I'll get your nails done. I'll do all the dishes. I'll do this. I'll do that." You would literally do anything to move all the obstacles out of the way to go A through Z in the phone, right? So you got to ask the right way. Now, the other thing you can do is you can also have Facebook posting. Okay, now how many of you have had your family throw up Facebook posts? Okay, so if you have not, then I'm sorry because it helps a lot. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna let you take a screenshot of this. Share my screen. Go ahead and take a picture of this. You put your senior photos or prom or whatever, just something that a mom would see and be like, oh, you know. But you can have, by the way, like you should have everyone, right, that throw up this Facebook post. Grandma, aunt, mom, um, girlfriend, boyfriend's mom. I mean, anyone who's willing to take 30 seconds and copy paste and throw up a photo on their Facebook wall and tag you, man, I mean, that would help a lot. So we can do that before the team meeting. You'd be surprised. So that's the second thing. So first thing is go through mom's phone, right? Aunt's phone, grandma's phone, whoever you're closest with, and it needs to be a mom, not a dude. Now, why do you think we don't want to go through a dude's phone? Like, why would I not want to go through my dad's phone?
They'll probably just give you other dudes instead of like the HM3s.
How many of us have done an appointment with a dude alone without the wife? How many of us have done that? And how does that go?
Not very well.
I think like this one time, this one person was like, "Oh, but I saw a homemaker." I'm like, "Yeah, but you're like one out of 1,000, right?" Like every time they're like, "Hey, I got to talk to my wife." But my point is you can get moms from dad's phones, but usually the dad doesn't have a bunch of women's phones numbers, right? Not usually. So first thing was go through that. And remember what I'm sharing with you though, is that where there's a will, there's a way. And if we say it out loud, it's like, hey, I can't get my mom to want to help me get more practice appointments. That seems kind of weird, right, to say out loud. Is everyone with me? Like that doesn't make any sense, right? So figure out a way around it, and maybe it needs to be phrased differently. But like there's no way that mom doesn't want to help you with the job. She's probably just a little confused on something. And then the second thing is Facebook post. The third thing is making a timeline for all the groups and organizations that you have been a part of. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. This is a big one because once you have the names, you can find the numbers. Okay. So you would look at your resume, you would look at like lists of previous experience, and you would want to think back to every group, event, organization, or private lesson that you've ever been a part of in your entire life. And so what you would do is like, I'm going to give everyone like 1 minute, okay? And I want you to write down, like, think of any group, any event, any organization that you've ever been a part of. For me, it was Model UN, Debate Club, swim swim team, basketball team, football team, student government, and those are like right off the top of my head, that's six, right? And that was when I was in high school. So I went in college. Now I want you to think to yourself in like the next minute, write down like from sixth grade on, every organization that you've been a part of. Just write down that organization's name. Okay, I'm gonna give everyone a minute to do that and think through. And it could be any organization, club, church, Bible study. I mean, any organizational thing. So you write all those organizations down. Okay. And, when you have more time on your own, like making a big list, because guess what? These organizations, there has to be, and you can write all of these resources down. Okay. So I'd write these resources down. Sports rosters. How many of you were on varsity sport? How many of you just graduated high school? I'm curious. How many of you were on sports teams at the varsity level at that high school? Okay. Now, here's the thing. What's so crazy? I want you to write down maxpreps.com. Anyone know where I'm going with this? I see that. I see that smirk, Kevin. You know exactly where I'm going with this, right? So, maxpreps.com. Guys, if you're like, I mean, if you ever played sports, you can literally go look up the roster of every single person that was on the sports team, and it's their full name. And then you have their name. So Let me show this here. So if I was gonna go look up, like let's say Winter Park, okay, then I would go down here to varsity, let's just say soccer, and then I go to roster. Well, if and I can go, by the way, I can go to previous. Does everyone see how there's like right here? I can go to previous. And by the way, well, if I happen to even know any of these kids a little bit, now I can go and maybe find their mom's number, message their mom on Facebook, or I could text them for their number and whatever, right? So sports rosters like on Max Preps, where I had a guy on my team and he's like, "Oh yeah, I was the captain. I just forgot everyone I ever played with." And he literally had like 40 new numbers because he literally just all of the friends from his soccer team and all of their moms, right? So sports rosters. The other thing you can write down is like group chats, like group WhatsApp group chats, group me group chats. Like there had to have been some type of every organization has a group chat where they like talk and send reminders. Maybe the moms are in it, something like that. The other thing is Instagram pages. Okay, so like Instagram pages of organizations that you've been a part of, where you look at who they're following, and it's usually the people who run the organization are the people that the page follows. So, you can look at like, and then you could direct message on Instagram after that. I would also think about what other resources. Let's see. On the organization's church directories. Okay, church directories, neighborhood directories, private school directories. Okay. Raise your hand if you ever went to a private high school. If you went to a private high school, there's a directory where all of the names and numbers of every mom who had a kid enrolled in that school exist. You need to find that. Find that and you will be set. Because then you just call the directory and we can show you the approach. But just what we've gone over. Okay, so I'm gonna back it up is and I'll go back to my little numbers thing here. Oops. How do we move faces? Here we go. Way too many tabs open. So you look at, oh, by the way, old jobs, right? Old jobs, old bosses, right? People you've come into contact, right? Volunteer coordinators, supervisors. And then once you have, the key is, guys, is that as you're going through all of these and writing down names, we can give you the resources to look up the numbers and you can ask people for the numbers. But the key is writing down a bunch of names of people that come to mind from those organizations and using like the directories and the white pages and the sports rosters and the this and the that and the Instagram pages. Because once you have the names, well, then you can just reach out to them in a lot of different ways to get their number. Okay, is everyone tracking so far? Right? This takes work, right? Like it's not like you remember this has never been the type of job where it's get rich quick. It's work hard and you can make thousands, right? Like it's not so it will be some effort and it will be worth it. Um, I know that like last summer, the best that I've ever seen is a guy named Brody Ambrose. His mom, like him and his mom, he didn't have a big family. And I'm like, look, man, you got two options, right? You can look up a bunch of numbers and really work for it, and then you'll crush it, or you can like tell yourself the story that you can't find people, right? But you know, which one do you want to do? And he looked up a bunch of numbers and he sold 19,000 for the push that we're in right now. And now he's a district manager 1 year after he started, right? So it is worth it. You just got to get the names down. Here's how to find all of the people. There's different ways to reach out. The first way is you can go on truepeoplesearch.com. Now you have to do it on your computer, not a phone, or else it kind of like is buggy. But once you have the first and last names to people, you can go on truepeoplesearch.com and you can look them up. Now it'll work about half the time, the number, right? The number will be disconnected about half the time. And so you just got to keep that in mind. You can also use this is how once you if you need to like message them, this is gold in the chat bar. So let's say you have all this list of like people, right? And you're trying to get in contact with them, like that's how you can like message them on Instagram or Facebook to ask for their phone number. In the parentheses where it's like how you know them, you have to actually like describe. And if I were you guys, you know how if you send massive paragraphs to people, it never really like hits that well. So you might want to break this message up in two. Like the first part of it is introducing yourself and how they know you, and then the second part is asking for their phone number. And that would be like a Facebook direct message, Instagram direct message, something like that. And you can look up a bunch of people that way. That's how I reached out to like my old teachers in high school that I really liked. I would message them on Facebook. Right? There's also multiple different ways that you could do that. Like there's other Facebook messages in your manual on page 18, I think, or 17. There is all of this like scripts on how to message and stuff. Mm. Okay. So that's a lot right there, directories. So we've reviewed mom, aunt, grandma's phone, A through Z, figure out a way, figure out if you need to do some chores or something, explain it right about practice appointments. Right. Second thing, make sure that you are making a list, right, of all of your places, like timelines for yourself, right? Timelines, right? Organizations, private lessons, groups, events, churches. Third thing was Facebook post. Here's another thing. Uh, this takes a lot of work, but you can make note cards to pass out in the neighborhood. Okay? Now, the way that you do it is you take like it has to be an unlined, like not like a flash card where there's lines on the back, but it has to be like a card, like almost like a postcard, if you will. And it needs to be like, blank on it so it doesn't like have the lines. And then you write that message on it. And then you take it to Office Depot and you photocopy it 500 times. And then you cut it out because you're not going to handwrite 500 cards. Your hand would fall off. Right. So, but if you like, this would be only if you live in a really awesome neighborhood. Like, and when I say awesome, I mean like, look up how much your house is on Zillow.com. If your house is over $450,000 or $400,000, then you live in a neighborhood where anyone could buy. And then I would do this. Right? So you would just have to Zillow your own address and figure that out. If you live in a townhome neighborhood, I would not do this. If you live in an apartment complex, I would not do this. If you live in a not so good area of town, I would not do this. And I wouldn't go to some random neighborhood that you've never been a part of and then do this. This is only if you live in a nice neighborhood. Okay? But what they look like is this. Show you. So this was my one of my buddies in Cutco when I was a sales rep. His name was Tyler. And he was He was 2 years into the job and he wanted to do more of the training appointments. Like he just wanted a little bit of an easier time. And so he took time. Now we can't put chocolate in the bag in June, it'll melt in Florida. But you can put these cards in Ziplocs, wouldn't recommend candy, and then you go and put it on their doorstep. Now you cannot put it in their mailbox. You can't put anything in anyone's mailbox, so just don't do that. That's against the law. But you can put it on their front door, you can put it on their step, and you can kind of, and it's a cute little card, and it's like, hey, call me. It takes a lot of hours, but it would be worth it if I live in a baller neighborhood. So Zillow your own address, and you can probably see if it's worth it or not. Okay. Okay. Have y'all ever heard of the door next door? Have you ever heard of the app Nextdoor? Okay. That would be another thing I'd write down is you can make a post on Nextdoor, which is an app that anyone can download for free. It's like neighborhood Facebook, if you will. And you can post this. I just put it in the chat bar, right? You can post this. And what Nextdoor is, think of it as Facebook, but only for specific neighborhoods. So it's neighbors. Now you have to like verify your address and stuff, but basically neighbors join and it's like only your neighborhood and the surrounding neighborhoods like get the message. So, you could definitely post that. It's what all the Karens use when like someone's speeding in the neighborhood and goes over a speed bump too much and they go on there and they're like someone's speeding, right? That's what they use. So, but think about it, like when you do your appointments, you should ask every customer, "Hey, are you on Nextdoor?" Because what if you could have them throw up a post like with a selfie with all of their neighbors? You know what I mean? Like, hey, you know the text that's three-way texted? What if they did that on Nextdoor and all of their neighbors saw you in their house and she's like, yeah, like you should help this person out. Might be worth it. Let's keep rolling. Okay, asking your friends for their parents' number. Now, I would only recommend doing this if you've been here for, at least a couple weeks because you have to know the right things to say and like obviously you're going to get a little bit of like pushback. But here is the way that I would ask. So in the chat bar, if I was calling one of my buddies, and I mean, like, how we have friends, but we got real friends, we got like friends, but like, no. So, when you're calling like just friends, not like your close friends, you could do this with your best friends. Obviously, you can just be like, yo, give me Rom's number. But with your like not so close friends, then you might need to ask, right? But, um, hey, I'm calling some of my buddies to start a new job, huge contest to earn a scholarship. All I have to do is a quick presentation, blah blah blah. And then you see at the end, it's like just explain how you just have to get their opinion and ask them a quick question. Um, and then this is like not something that you would text. Obviously, this is like a call, like kind of the format of how to call someone. And you can also use vector impact, but this would be to how to ask like friends for the parents' numbers. Okay, here's the other one. Other way. Guys, you can just direct message all of mom's Facebook friends yourself. So I just posted in the chat bar. But I remember I had a girl who was from like um, southern Georgia, not a very good area. And she Facebook messaged all of her grandma, her aunts, her mom's like Facebook friends and like sold over $8,000 that way. So you can, especially if like, mom's holding out only giving 20 or 30 or something. It's like, cool. Well, you can go and message like all of the Facebook friends and you'll see that there's the form out there. Okay. I'm going to share this as well. Well, actually, I'll wait a second. The last thing I wanted to share with you is like, you have to have a how can I mentality instead of like, why can't I? And by the way, you're not bothering anyone. It's called networking. It's a valuable skill, right? So, um, the busiest people and the most successful people that you might be afraid to call. I remember there was like a really, really famous like broker, and I called her every day for 3 or 4 months, like twice a week. And I thought I was bothering her. Like, can you imagine every Wednesday and Sunday I'm just like calling like for like months. And this lady does not answer. So in my head, what do you think I'm telling myself as like why she's not answering?
She's probably busy.
Yeah, but well, as a new rep, I was like, oh, I'm bothering her. Like, she doesn't want to see me, blah, blah, blah. She's ignoring me. Oh, well. The w- at the end of the day, she picked up one of these days. She's like, oh, why haven't you called sooner? She didn't even realize I had called. And then I proceeded to do the demo. She bought a medium set and she told me she's I still remember it because it was like a big moment for me because I was like a little, I was 19 years old. I was a little new to the job. And she looked at me and she's like, persistence is key. Too many people are afraid to keep following up because they're wussies. So you keep doing that. And I was like, dang, like this was coming from like a successful like broker, who it took 3 months to get in touch. So follow the broker's advice. Don't be a wussy, right? You got to ask yourself like risk versus reward. What is the worst thing that could happen versus what is the best thing that can happen? And when you're getting more numbers, it's like most of the barriers are in your own head. Okay? So I'm gonna post this as well. I'm gonna post the link to it. Everything that I referenced, you're gonna want to save this website that I just posted. Everything that I just referenced, every script, every step, and every tip is right there. thefloridaelite.com/numbers. Now, tonight we have a team meeting. Now, if you aren't prepared, right, to have 30, 40, 50 plus numbers to call, then what do you think you should do today?
Get numbers.
Probably. Okay. So I would be looking up to make sure you don't want to be the person at the phone jam. One thing as a manager that always um, that always frustrated me is like, you know, if you have 15 numbers, like why do you keep coming into the office with the same amount of numbers that you did the previous week and the previous week and the previous week and the previous, like do something, right? Like, you know what I mean? You got to take responsibility, right, for where you're at and keep in mind that all of it could change because you just need one or two or three or four of these initial training appointments. You get 50 recs and your whole everything changes, right? So you just got to keep that in mind is you just do what you got to do to get those numbers. Okay. And we went through a lot of resources. Would everyone agree? There's like a ton of resources in there. And by the way, this website and these resources is how we got people who just arrived here like within 6 months of the country and we get them to, the ability to sell Cutco. There's no reason to not have numbers to call. So that would be my advice for you. I would use that. And we are going